All right, well, let's get started. So good evening and welcome to the April 8th Grafton Finance Committee meeting. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Grafton Finance Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by visiting the Zoom link found on the Grafton website. I ask that everyone please mute themselves on your computer or iPad if you're not speaking. We will need to take attendance to acknowledge that everyone is here and can hear me and engage in the discussion. And then we have to, for any votes, have a roll call vote. So if I can just get everyone to acknowledge their attendance, and I'll start with Dan Kusher, and you could just say Dan Kusher here.
Dan Kusher here.
Colleen Roy.
Colleen Roy here.
Susan Fiacco.
Susan Fiacco here.
Sue Robbins.
Sue Robbins here.
Barry Smith.
Barry Smith here.
Lorna Mangano.
Lorna Mangano here.
Dr. Fitzpatrick.
Present.
And I'm not sure, Cindy, what your last name is. Are you here?
Yes, Cindy, I'm here.
Oh, Cindy, excellent. Okay. All
I
right,
just
great.
joined in as alternate, but showed up.
Your audio is breaking up a little bit, but it's nice to have you. And I'm going to put you back on mute. All right. Excellent. So as chair, I'll act as moderator. I'll invite anybody for any agenda items that we have to participate and ask questions on anything that we have on the agenda. And then, yeah, if anybody wants to speak up and comment, they can just raise their hands and I'll pick it up. Dr. Fitzpatrick, how would you like to go through the presentation? I do have the budget document. I can display that, present it, or if you would like to present, I think I can just make you a presenter as well.
If you'd be kind enough to display, I'll be glad to walk everyone through that, Matt.
Outstanding. Yeah, let's do it that way then. Okay, so move this over. And I will start at the top. Okay, excellent. So I'm sharing. Share screen 2. So just let me know when you can see that.
Yes.
Good?
Yep.
Excellent. So you can basically just tell me go to the next page and I'll go to the next page.
Absolutely. The budget booklet has been provided to the finance committees and boards of selectmen and town administrators throughout the 13 town district. The page that's being displayed at the moment identifies those who served on the budget subcommittee meeting approximately 12 times and publicly posted session to build the FY21 budget. The document itself is printed by our students and we trust that it provides a good summary and so far the feedback has been positive relative to accomplishing that. If we turn the page.
Sorry, I just need to admit people here. What can I do here? There we go.
In standard practice, the budget booklet, the introductory section is a letter from me, which highlights some of the major changes or cost-effective aspects of the request. Within this letter, as you scan it, you'll notice that the total budget increase is a 3.9% increase. The district school committee once again voted an offset by drawing upon its reserve fund, otherwise known as excess and deficiency, in the amount of $225,000 of the Department of Revenue Certified Reserve Fund to reduce assessments. Certain aspects of this that we're particularly proud is the fact that the district was particularly aggressive in this cycle relative to grant opportunities that we were a little bit concerned that they might not be there for the long run. So we went full boat and received well over $2 million for FY21 with additional commitments. That's why you see the reference to the $3 million for the following year. Some of the grants are multiple year. In addition, the district self-funded its roof repair project and applied and received authorization from the Mass School Building Authority for accelerated payments. So once again, for the third time, we are self-funding our own roof repair versus the more traditional approach used in most locations, going to your communities and asking them to accept greater debt. One of the aspects of this plan was that we discovered that even though we didn't have a great deal of snow, be better prepared to plow. We do our own plowing. We don't call upon any local DPW to do that, but we work closely with the DPWs throughout the district. In any case, it turned out that the estimated cost of acquiring a new plowing truck and plow was $50,000. So we drew upon our alumni and other fundraising efforts to raise the $50,000 to address that without asking for that to be in this budget. One other aspect about the self-funded roof project, in order to save on the legal aspects that are required for review and sign-offs, I reached out to a colleague in old-fashioned bartering, did a favor for him, which is within the rules, and had nothing to do with the school. He in turn did the legal reviews, and therefore we were able to not incur any costs relative to the legal processing of the application. That's a summary. If you want to draw the page up, Matt. Here you see reference to the $50,000 that was raised to accompany or to complement the budget request that's before the Grafton FinCom. The budget is built upon governor's first numbers, which has been traditional for us. It's necessary that we do that in that our budget process involves 13 different towns with all different deadlines. There is, of course, concern, given the COVID-19 virus impact to the economy, that the state budget may be in transition. We certainly hope that the federal stimulus money helps to fill in the gap from any state revenue shortfalls that the state would experience as they follow through with their portion. And also we hope that the state does draw upon its rainy day fund, because we feel that's why it's there. I'll also mention to anyone watching this, and of course to your finance committee, that a presentation of the budget is on our website that summarizes the very things we're doing right now. Please advance. The green sheet is generally viewed by the finance committees as the revenue side. In a kind of a bit of irony, the state did not plan to give Grafton's Vocational Technical School major new money under Chapter 70. Like almost 200 systems in the state, we were scheduled or are scheduled to receive a mere $30 more per student in state aid. One of the more reasons why we go after the competitive grants to complement that.
That's
So-
the 59,000.
Question?
That's the 59,000 in chapter
Yeah, that's
70.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the increase from the previous year.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there is a reduction in that, at least there isn't a lot of dollars at risk, although every dollar counts, and we certainly hope that does not erode.
Yeah. We did have Dave Meridian at our March 23rd meeting. His indication at that point was that they weren't adverse to dipping into rainy day, and that it seemed like he was sort of intimating that we might get level funding year over year from FY20 to 21. So that's good to hear that your liability, should they drop it down to last year's level, isn't substantial.
Yeah, we're working with Representative Brady and all 5 state reps and our two senators regularly. You may have also noticed that the economist forecasting, which was scheduled for earlier this week, has been postponed to the 14th. That is intended to give all stakeholders an indication of the direction which the state is going. We recognize there is a reluctance to use the rainy day fund, but once again, we would encourage them to, be helpful to our communities and provide aid, which obviously comes in multiple forms, but in our case, under Chapter 70.
Absolutely. Doctor, I'm just wondering, in the summary page, obviously you guys did a great job with grants and other sources of non-local tax funding. If we go into a recession economy, what was the experience that you had in terms of that type of those type of funding sources back in 08, 09?
In 08, 09, the primary impact was a significant reduction. In Black Snow Valley's case, it was almost $2 million of, the 9C cut category, which
Yep.
obviously was very disruptive. As far as the grants, I've reached out to some of the key players who are part of the governor's staffing or liaisons from the Department of Elementary Secondary Education to the governors and the Capital Skills Grant. And their position is that the grant money in many cases is categorized as capital, and therefore it's not transferable to operational. So it would be a hands-off, or therefore it would be protected. I certainly hope they're right in that. It's acquiring equipment, certainly in the magnitude of $2 million or $3 million, allows us to add new skills without asking the towns to fund it. We hope it continues. We've been given the impression that it's not at risk. We hope that it's not a promise. It was a kind of a tea leaf reading, if you will, of the
Yep.
people we called upon. Does that
Got it.
answer your question, Matt?
It does, yes, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on this green page? Oh, hang on a second.
All right, moving on.
Moving on.
Thank you. The auditors, we have an annual audit that's included in the budget. It's required of a regional system, whether you're vocational or not vocational. And the audit has recommended in our conversations with the Department of Revenue, which have been wholesome and professional, they've indicated that we should be very transparent when we draw upon our own reserve fund. And therefore we display this and clearly indicate to you that the school committee voted in a separate vote after approving the budget for drawing upon $225,000. This is also the source of money that allows us to do things like the self-funding of the roof project and the recycling of the dollars from the Mass School Building Authority. The current approved plan is 55% reimbursed. We're awaiting the bids. We anticipate receiving, or we're scheduled to receive the bids on the roof project this Thursday.
Outstanding.
Are there any questions on that?
Questions on the E&D fund? All right.
The next page is the one that, of course, is of strong interest to the Grafton FinCom and each of the FinComs. At this point, I've presented to 3 different FinComs, one remotely last night in Millville. The other 2 occurred, still allowed a visitation before the COVID virus impacted mobility, if you will. So Grafton has 60 students, and we've been challenged by the Finance Committee and by the Board of Selectmen of Grafton to have an increase in the students. I am glad to see that's trending. There's an increase of 4 students from the previous year. Incremental progress, but progress nevertheless. The town owns, as this displays, just under a 5% ownership in its vocational technical school. The assessment number, as if I didn't say that, has been provided in advance to the town manager and also provided in sample warrant languages for the town's reconfiguration to be in compliance with the format that the town is most comfortable. Any questions on that?
So when did you provide the assessment number? I'm just asking because, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, we had to make some adjustments in our budget because the assessment went up or wasn't in line with what we had thought. So I wasn't sure whether that was the additional 4 students or whether that had changed on your end.
I
It
don't,
wasn't a big adjustment. I think it was 12,000 or something like that.
okay.
Hi, Dr.
Oh.
Fitzpatrick. I think we mailed out our certification letters to your town manager and I think the chair of the school committee and maybe the town accountant probably a week after our school committee approval. So probably I'd say mid-March, those letters went out.
Okay, that might have been when it was. So he might have just had a placeholder estimate in there. Okay.
That would have been my explanation as well. It's not uncommon that the town managers ask well in advance of the vote to give them any kind of a placeholder or best guess.
Got it.
We were hoping for greater state aid.
We all were.
Yeah, exactly. So,
We're all
but
in the
this
same
number
boat.
has- This number has not changed, as Lorna points out, since the certified vote was taken by
Outstanding.
our committee.
So did you want to walk us through the apportionment ratios?
Okay. Frankly, ever since 1993, with the state coming up with the absolute minimum contribution calculation, it's no longer totally under control of the enrollments. Before 1993, each town paid the exact same amount, and it was, if you had 5% of the enrollment, you had 5% of the cost. Now the state does its own calculation, and you see this in the third column over, okay, relative to minimum contribution.
Yep.
So we inherit that. It's referenced in my cover letter, and as do you. And I'm fairly certain that the town administrator and the finance committee monitor that number when it comes out from the state. The absolute minimum contribution is, as I referenced in my letter, is based on the 2017 income levels reported by the citizens of the town of Grafton and the 2018 property tax base, once again, submitted to the Department of Revenue by municipal officials. So we inherit that. Does that respond to that issue? Shall I move on?
Yep. Unless anybody else had any other questions.
No.
Okay.
Moving on, the transportation capital equipment activities, the other categories cover all the other costs that we include within a single request. And there are certain pages that talk about a number of those cost items. I'll move on to the debt, with your permission, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. That would be, no,
Sorry,
it would be 8.3, sorry, okay. I believe we're down to the last 4 years or 4.5 years, I guess, of the initial debt that expanded the school, the only debt that Valley Tech has. And Grafton had a ratio established of a 3-year average at the time in which the debt was approved. Grafton opted, as it is entitled to do, a separate warrant activity to handle the debt. And this debt was refinanced after 10 years to lower the interest rate and has been in place for some 15 to 16 years. Any questions on that?
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, hi, this is Anthony. I've been listening. I've been getting a message saying the moderator had me muted and it just came off. So I'm here.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'd like to point out that Mr. Yitz has been very active in his role as a subcommittee member and a school committee member and participates in a number of key decisions and makes recommendations through that process. Certainly has been a hard worker on the committee. So it's been a pleasure to work with him. So,
Well, it's nice to have you, Anthony.
and my contract is not up for review, so
Thank you for that.
moving on.
All right.
This is a summary page. The state incorporates a long-term practice of a series line item budget. Valley Tech has never had an issue with either its audits or its submissions or organization. We're blessed with a very capable business office that traditionally helps other school systems. It's not uncommon for us to receive calls. I received a message just earlier today that officials in Uxbridge were particularly appreciative of the business office assistance in helping them resolve a matter, colleague to colleague. This summarizes the total budget increase is the 3.9, and I'll advance the pages with your permission. Each section of the budget includes the subsets in these categories and a description of narrative purposes to allow the school committee the finance committee, and technically the school committee, to gain greater insight. One of the things that the business manager points out is that the state traditionally changes the categories or directs us to incorporate other categories. So you can witness growth or increased cost in a certain section, but that's primarily attributable to a change in the categories which are clustered within that. Obviously, the total increase is the 3.9 that I mentioned.
Got it. Any questions on this page? Okay.
Each of these sections is the subset and the narrative descriptions that go with it. The one category that you would not find in these subsets, to the degree that we have been able to support, is the OPEB. The OPEB funding is, you see it referenced here, okay, is a priority of a number of the finance committee's members across our district. We have 126 finance committee members. And so what Valley Tech did, its school committee negotiated through the collective bargaining process an arrangement where the instructional staff and others covered by the collective bargaining make a modest contribution from their paycheck every other week for OPEB, which tallies some $15,000 per year. The district makes a commitment to include a matching amount of $15,000, which you would find in this budget. And we were successful in negotiating forgiveness, if you will, from a 2013 delayed billing that the state gave us, which allows us to, the auditor recommended that we earmark that money as soon as we became made aware of a bill, even though it was an outdated bill from the state. And we're drawing 100,000 from that that's been freed up now and to contribute to OPEB. So while there's only 15,000 in the budget before you for FY21, there basically is 130,000 contribution to OPEB. We continue to try to find non-assessment or non-tax impact methods of addressing as many things as we can. I hope that's helpful.
Got it. Yes, it is. Do you know what your outstanding OPEB liability is at this point?
Basically, it's in the 35 million range,
Yeah.
Which obviously is significant, and we're chipping away at it, but we're not trying. We're trying to do it without impacting loss of instructional resources.
Yeah, that's quite the challenge. Yeah, our finance committee just updated our financial policies and sent them along to our select board specifically to include that in that OPEB, some type of, just a recommendation that we have to have a plan to chip away at that, as you mentioned. It's quite the liability for most towns. So hopefully they'll pick it up and review that. That was something that's come up in our bond rating and also our recent audit.
Well, you're right on target with those observations, Matt.
All right.
So we can scan these sections unless you wish to give anyone further time to read them.
Anybody have any questions on, hopefully everybody's read the budget. It was sent out earlier.
I've never made a presentation to the Grafton FinCom where they hadn't pre-read the budget. And I've been there 27 times.
All right, any question on any of this? Moving on. I guess you need to tell me where you want to land.
This references all our contractual arrangements. And you can see they're just brief summaries to provide the reader with a little more insight into each category. We're self-contained, so we need to cover all cost factors.
Okay, so your insurance
That's great.
benefits went up
Insurances.
6%. Okay. Got it.
One of the
Capital.
new aspects that we incorporated in health insurance is that we had a specialist that was provided through our primary provider, Harvard Pilgrim, who was an outside consultant to the insurance company that offers a free analysis of each of our employees' health plan and gives them guidance, almost like a financial planner, as to whether or not they should make, or they recommend they make changes. 35 of our enrollees have changed over to an HSA, and a significant number of people benefited from that individual review and made subsequent changes, which result in savings to us and to the plan and to the person, and certainly to the taxpayers that cover that aspect of it.
Got it. Okay, and we're at the end of the individual category summaries, and we can see the total operating budget at that
And you see the
3.9%.
3.9. Yes.
Yep.
That's correct.
Okay, any other questions from anybody?
No new programs being offered next year? You can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Susan, I didn't hear that clearly. Sorry, Susan.
I was just wondering if there were any new programs you were implementing next year.
Well, I want to see where the tide comes in this year, obviously, as do you. We have been trying to make it's almost like renovating your kitchen without major funds to do that. Slight modifications using our vocational technical people to reconfigure space and things of that nature. I know one of the priorities voiced by you and other members of your committee has been a vet assisting program. We just haven't, we've worked with the state, we've primed them, we have made arrangements with a satellite veterinarian clinic over in Northbridge, in the former facility owned by the Milford Hospital, which was purchased by the veterinarian and his partners, and have a general person's understanding of a satellite vet assisting program that would be based in the Northbridge Vet Clinic. Well, we haven't been able to generate the funding necessary for the new staff and others if we continue to live within a budget that we think is achievable, if you will, and the 3.9 increase. So it's been moderate incremental changes. And also we're looking at a biotechnology. We would like to transition when the window opens itself and when the finance is there to look at adding both a vet assisting and a biotechnology program. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
This particular page identifies, particularly at the bottom, a number of the cost elements that are built into our system. And we've always asked for consideration to recognize that as your regional vocational technical school making a one-time request, that we need to cover costs such as the 15 or 16 items and categories that are listed at the bottom here that are oftentimes in a local system can be shared with the municipality. But in our case, we were not allowed to do that as a 13 municipal entity. So it's one of the reasons we asked not to be compared or contrasted with a town department of any type. But we do take great pride in working with the town departments and various projects, and certainly with the school systems throughout the valley. Thank you. Here are some basic charts looking at what we're witnessed to our concern, and is that the state has talked about a Student Opportunity Act and passed one, and provided a plan to fund significantly new dollars to the urban school systems that have great need. It's questionable whether or not that plan will be advanced in FY21. And I would imagine the legislature will be revisiting its ability to pump significantly new dollars, even if it's to the only some of the school systems in the state. What we've witnessed is pretty much a 60% burden of responsibility to our member towns for the budget, and roughly a 40% subsidy by the state. And I know we're working with all our reps and senators to consistently enhance that. And one of the ways we do it is with the grant money, so that, if you're adding the grant money to the 60% that the towns provide, you're doing it without asking them to make any further contribution to add to the learning opportunities of Valley Tech. We can move on. This obviously, we take very seriously the need to maximize energy. We have, with the help again, the business office and our other business connections, we've been utilizing at least 2 energy saving activities. One is group purchasing of farm-based solar energy for discounting, and also reducing our usage of electricity. We're certainly reducing it now, but I'm saying at peak times, which allows the National Grid or other companies that provide energy to us to give us a bit of a reduction on the rates because of our willingness to work with them in a tandem cooperative venture. Moving on. This is a bit of a, it shows you the total expenditures of Valley Tech, budget increases, and it's, but also you can see the assessment trending versus the state aid, which is very alarming. And we were optimistic initially relative to the Student Opportunity Act, and we're glad it helped some, but we continue to hope that it would be something that we're successful in securing. We also know that our 5 state reps and 2 senators are subsets of the bodies in which they serve, and only have so much influence in this process. And to find fault with the decisions made at the Commonwealth level probably is not the best way for our legislative contingent to position themselves to make requests for special items along the way that are achievable. So there's it's just a political reality to how much influence anyone has. We have maintained regular contact with, certainly Senator Moore, Representative Meridian, and all our other legislative contingents, and are pleased to work with them throughout the year. And it's not uncommon for the reps and senators to call upon us to help a given family or a certain situation or a project within the district as well. We're glad to do that. We move on. The grants, we'd like to point out in fairness that in some cases, certain categories, federal grants like Perkins and others that are listed here are usually targeted to vocational technical schools because of the standards we have to meet. And a non-vocational technical school would not really be eligible. Certainly not, grants are available in all categories, but we do have a bit of an advantage in the sense of the standards that we've met significantly because of the contribution that the Grafton FinCom has supported along with our other towns. Certainly we would not be receiving or be eligible for the grants if there weren't the matching efforts of our assessment. If assessments were not supported, I rather doubt that the grants would be successful in our pursuits. But we are many of these grants are competitive and we are very aggressive. One of the things we're doing now is tabulating the FEMA reimbursements under the CARE Act at the federal level and monitoring very closely any other subsidies or rebates that are possible, be it the federal government or MEMA at the state level, to maximize. It's what you would expect of us, and we're glad to do that.
Do you have a dedicated grant writer who looks for the opportunities and writes them?
We did have one who was a part-timer. She gave notice, and that role has been assumed by internal staff
Okay.
significantly. So we do not currently have. It would be best that we going forward that we include a part-time grant writer and not continue to burn out anybody else with their full responsibilities.
Yeah, but it's burnout. It's also missed opportunities, right? So it's challenging to pile that responsibility on top of other responsibilities. But
That is correct. And many of these grants are, the window opens, almost suddenly with short time response time. So you're once again, your observation, Matt, is accurate. If you're not positioned to respond, then it would be a missed opportunity.
Mhm. Okay.
BVT, we've summarized. We won't, because we are not based in 12 of the towns that we serve. We take special pride in sharing the developments of our students. We have the youngsters earned 184 Skills USA. These are trade awards in the last 2 cycles of the National Skills USA activities. Questions been raised by one or more citizens that, are you on target with your mission? I would argue that if in 2 years have 184 different award recipients for categories range from cooking to HVAC, is a clear indication that we are providing, Grafton's Voc School is providing quality vocational technical trade training, and our students take that skill wherever they go. There's, actually in some of these award ceremonies, you now hear groans from some of the other schools when they announce Valley Tech again. So we'll put up with that. In the later part of this, you see some of the reenactment activities. That was a grant that I wrote. It was a modest grant of roughly about 15,000, I believe. And it allowed us to bring history alive, and working with the Daniels Farm site and history, cultural groups and history and library groups throughout the valley. We continue to look for ways to make instruction applied and exciting and motivational. And that's an example. That really was a lot of fun to do. And the whole school took that on, as they generally do. I mean, culinary was making food of the era. The health students had a field hospital, so many other aspects of that.
Fantastic. I think that's the end of the budget book. Is there any other questions from Finance Committee? I'm going to stop sharing this so that I can kind of see everybody. Any other questions?
There's usually a gallery button on the top left-hand side.
I got it.
Yep.
Yes, a question.
Go for it.
Dr. Fitzpatrick, do you track your post-grad progress 5-10 years out? Students who graduated, what they're doing?
We have not done that to my satisfaction. Okay. When I originally asked for that, because it's something that I certainly want to see, I was told that the software that they had to acquire wasn't in the budget. Okay, went to the guidance department. So we are trying to improve that as students leave now by maintaining cell numbers and Facebook addresses and a variety of today's social media world, so that we can do a far better job of that. I have to tell you though, recently I've heard from a number of graduates, some who were concerned about my health, which I appreciate, but also who are volunteering to help tutor students online because they know they're moving to remote learning. So we maintain a casual relationship, but not to the level that I would prefer. I would like to give you, more empirical information on that. It is something that I have targeted to address.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Dr. Fitzpatrick, thank you so much for showing up. We really appreciate it. And I know these are challenging times for all the educational systems around the state. So I wish you the best of luck and health and safety for your family and community as well.
Thank you. I share the same sentiment. I wish everyone the very best. And once again, I applaud the service to the Finance Committee. I think I mentioned to you each time, I'm the eldest son of a former Finance Committee member. And he took great pride in that role within the community of Milford for a number of years. So,
Outstanding. Well, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Dr. Mike.
Good to see everybody.
Stay
Take
safe.
care. Hey, Anita, you're on mute. You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hi, sorry about that. How
Oh,
are you,
no worries.
everyone?
Doing good. All right, let me pull up the budget book. See, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, so who do we have reviewing this?
Mark,
Colleen and Mark.
So, am I in the right spot?
That's mine.
All right, great.
135.
All right. So I think we had a couple of things tonight. We can do our department budget review, and also I think we wanted to go through the revenues report. So that's something that I'm not sure everybody on the committee has seen before. So if you can just spend 5 minutes kind of walking us through that report, that would be
Sure.
beneficial for the committee. We'd appreciate that.
Sure. Okay, so should we start with my budget?
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so under personnel, it's just myself and I have one staff member, which is Tina. So so under the department head salary, it's the 2% increase that Tim's office put in. And then for the admin personnel, my employee is going from, she'll be going from a step 9 to a step 10 in August. So she'll be getting her step increase in August, and then she'll just be getting the 2% collective bargaining agreement increase on July 1. The assistant stipend, that was something that I had put in previous years because I was hoping to convert that position from just a normal staffer to an assistant town accountant. So I just zeroed that out and I just added $400 to the overtime line instead. So I just made that 1,000 instead of the 600 that I had for FY20.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Okay, under the expenses, we don't really have that many expenses, to be completely honest. The only thing we would really need is if we had any issues with our printers, which we don't normally have. Last year, I bought a printer, my printer that I just do all my normal everyday printing, it died. It was many years old, so I ended up buying a very frugal amount printer. It was like $230, and it's been working great for us. So unless something happens to that printer, I won't be using the $400, but I always keep it just in case anything does go wrong.
Okay.
Under the professional and technical, the bulk of the money is for our accounting software that we have, which is SoftWrite. So what happens is the treasure collectors department, assessors department, sewer, and then town clerk, we all have different modules that we use. So everyone gets charged a different amount for each module. So our accounting module is going to be $11,177, which is a 4% increase over FY20. And those are hard numbers that I actually get from the accounting software itself. Like I grab it from them. So that's what they gave me. Okay. And then I allocated just $2,700 to the consultant, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly during our annual close. This year, we it did use him again. A little bit. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. I actually has sent the exact amount to Mark and Barry, I believe, on how much I had spent on FY20. But I spent a little bit more than I wanted to. I think it was like 4,500. I think only because I was out on FMLA for almost 3 months. So, and that was right around the time that we were doing the closing. So I just needed them as a backup just in case the DOR needed any questions while I was out.
So we have a significant number of changes happening to FY20. How are you positioned going into the next couple of months in terms of closing for the year?
So, I mean, obviously I'm trying to do 100 different things right now. So I'm taking it day by day. Right now, I am trying to do a lot of work now so that when it comes time to the closing, it'll be a smooth transition. But because there's so many moving parts at the moment and I'm trying to do I'm attending webinars and just doing extra stuff that I wouldn't normally do. I guess I'm just taking it day by day, and I'm hoping that I can just get through and make sure everything, because it's difficult not being in the office too. But I mean, I do go in once a week just to make sure, like I grab everything that I need for the week or whatever. And I mean, I'm fortunate because I live in town and I live down the street, so I can go in whenever I need to go in.
Got it. Do you think that 2,700 is going to cover it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
More than enough. Yeah.
Okay.
More than enough. Conferences, seminars, $1,000 is plenty. Our March conference at UMass got canceled. So the majority of the money I use for conferences and seminars usually will be for the March conference because there's a hotel and it's for 3 days. So this year I actually didn't end up using it at all. So next year I will definitely end up using it all. Office supplies, I don't usually use as much as I am appropriated. So the fact that they reduced my budget to the 1,500 is plenty for me. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Got it.
In-state travel, again, that's mostly for my conference that I have. And then there's other, there's other conferences throughout the year that I do attend. There's like DOR workshops, there's and they're usually either in Southwestern Mass or sometimes they're out in Western Mass. I'm sorry, Southeastern Massachusetts, excuse me. Dues and memberships, the $480 is plenty as well.
Okay.
And then the new equipment was zeroed out because if we need any new equipment, it usually comes out of the IT line item.
Got it. Okay. And that is it. Colleen, did you have any observations or questions based on your review?
So one of the things I found interesting when we were meeting with her was when she was talking about that SoftWrite program and how it's increased her productivity using it. But not a lot of the other departments had embraced it as much as the accounting department had. So I was just wondering, and she did tell us about other modules that could even help going down the line. So I just wanted her to maybe talk about if she needed any more additional modules now that she's working at home more and what that might look like.
So basically right now, so the SoftWrite module, you can actually end up, you can do your payroll through there as well, but we have Harper's for payroll. So I'm not exactly sure if Joan would like to add that in because I know that she does it through Harper's right now. But I know that the treasure collectors, sometimes they have a bit of an issue with it, and like the assessor's office seems to be okay with it as well. We did go through a change where we were hosting SoftWrite right on our server, which is located right at Town Hall, but then we went to a cloud-based server, which actually works out really well because now the system actually moves a lot faster. So when it came to departments plugging in either invoices to be paid, it was taking them maybe an hour or 1.5 hours to plug in like 15 items to be paid. Now it'll take them like 3/4 or half of the time. So that's one really good thing that happened from converting to the cloud version.
Probably easier to work from home as well.
100%. It really is.
Yeah, got it. Nice.
The other thing I found interesting when we were chatting with her was figuring out our OPEB liability. And and how large that number truly is. And I didn't know if she wanted to speak to that at all.
Yeah, that jumped significantly this year, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't actually have the OPEB book in front of me. I apologize. I can't remember exactly how much it was. I think, I don't remember. I apologize.
That's all right. I think it went from 51 to 55 to around 61 or something
60,
like.
660, yeah.
Yeah.
I can
Was-
forward it to you if you need it. I just have to find it in my email because I think I have an electronic version as well, but I can forward to you
Got
if
it.
you would like it.
At some point, we've got to, I got 0 reply for our updated policies sent off to the select board because our pandemic happened and everything kind of went by the wayside. But that's something that I think we're going to have to come up with some kind of strategy. And I wonder, if it's something that we need to be thinking about baking into some of our agreements going forward, similar to what BVT's done. We've got to do something, even if it is small.
I 100% agree.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget? Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, are we getting all of the support that we really want or need from SoftWrite?
They're fine with me. Yeah. I mean, if I have any issues, we call them, they rectify them right away.
Okay. And they were acquired by somebody else, right, last year?
Yeah, by not by Springbook, by
A name like that.
something like that.
Does it make sense to promote other departments to ensure that they do move to SoftWrite so that we're all on the same, in a sense, on the same page?
So right now, all of those departments do use SoftWrite, but we just use different modules within SoftWrite. So I have the accounting one, the
Yep.
assessors has their own assessing one, sewer has their own, the treasure collector has 2 different ones.
All right. And does SoftWrite generate the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report? Or do you have
No.
to go through the auditor for that?
No, our auditor does that for us.
Is there a push the button and generate the CAFR kind of thing?
I have not seen that button, no.
That'd be one heck of a button.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm assuming if they were to create one, it would be a bunch of different reports that they would have to merge together in order to create it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm assuming if we ever decided that we weren't going to have him do it and we were going to do it in-house, I would have to work with their back office just to create that one report.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense with the way it works right now.
Yeah.
About how much do you turn back at the end of the year, your department?
I don't, let me look. I can see how much I turned back in FY19. I don't remember. Not a lot. Probably the only monies I really return are probably from the supplies line, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't really return that much away because my budget's very small to begin with. So I only ask for about how much I need. And then with the decrease in my supply line by $500, I think my reverting any money to the general fund will be very small, if that.
And my understanding is that we're working now on, we're working now on a revised fiscal 21 budget, which is different from the one that we're looking at now.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea of what impact that might have, aside from helping us balance the budget?
So right now, Becca and Tim, we were updating the revenue projections for FY21.
Yeah.
So we were trying to update those. Do you want to start going over the revenue, or do you guys have any more questions on the budget itself?
Revenue's cool.
Okay. Okay, so right now, at our first conversation that we had, that I had with them last week, we reduced motor vehicle excise by approximately 100,000. And then for the fees, we decreased marijuana money by 260. There was police detail fees. So those are basically fees that we charge the outside vendors when they ask for a police detail. So we decreased that by $10,000. And then building permits, we decreased that by $46,400. And then we just level funded all of the aid that we get, which was, we reduced it by like about $201,000, which was like a total of like $617,000 and change.
Anita, what did you say building permits were again?
We reduced them by $46,400.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we getting any problems with people running into difficulty paying their bills?
So are you referring to like real estate taxes, motor vehicles, like that?
Anything, yeah.
So nothing that I've heard of so far. Right now, we're right on pace to be bringing in as much as we thought that we were going to for FY20.
Okay.
So I have the revenue report, the most
Yep.
recent one up. Any questions on this? So personal property, this is all the commercial personal property
Correct.
licenses. It's all of our in lieu.
Permits generate a lot of money.
Permits does generate a lot of money.
And the interest on investments, yeah, that's one. Is that float or what is that? Are that the trust funds?
That is not trust funds. That is completely different. No, because the trust funds are within Bartholomew.
Right.
This money is for it's the interest that we earn in our regular bank accounts.
Okay. Yeah.
I wish my bank accounts earned that kind of interest.
Well, you're also talking about 40, 50, $60 million.
Like I said.
100,000.
I wish my balance had that much money.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. Are we anticipating any issues with tax collections? I know that's not really your thing, but you know, as we started to look at the uncollected taxes between 08, 09, there was a pretty significant drop there.
So from what I understand, if people don't pay their mortgages, from what I understand, that if they escrow their taxes, the bank will always make sure that they pay the taxes to the town. That's how I understand it works. So I don't anticipate any issues with tax collection.
Okay, as far as the property tax goes. Okay.
Correct. Yes. But like I said, like you said as well, that's probably, it's not really my forte, but that's my understanding at least.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions on?
If you just scroll back to the meals tax.
Yeah.
Wanted to see that number.
Meals.
So this number of the 93,000, that
Yep.
doesn't include Q3.
Oh,
And I'll tell you, Q3
Not sure where it is.
hasn't been posted yet, but Q3 came in at just a tiny bit below 42,000. So it came in at 41,865.
okay.
Remind me, which is running about half of what we used to get?
So I actually looked up the number. So last year at the end of Q3, we had collected 120 almost 121,000. And if you add in that 41,800 for this quarter, for quarter 3 for FY20, we'll be at a little less than 136,000. So we're about $15,000 over what we did last year.
Got it. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, my same generic question. We get the other report, which is called, I think, Management Expenditures and Revenues.
Hmm?
And yet, this is the revenue report we get. Is there any way of combining those two reports? Or I'm just curious why the other report says it's reporting revenue, but it's really not.
So those are two completely separate reports.
Yes.
And I can ask SoftWrite to see if they can merge it somehow into one report, but they are two completely separate reports.
Yeah, I'm not sure the accounting numbers I'm fairly certain the accounting numbers are not exactly the same.
They're not. They are not the same, because those are more for the that other report, the one that Sue sends out, that one's more for like the departments themselves, like for the individual department expenditures.
Yes, it shows the expenditures, but it only, in a few cases, shows the actual revenue, even though the title of the report is expenditures and revenue.
I know.
So titles aside, though, is there an easy way for us to correlate revenues by department so that we can take the, if we can't combine the reports, take what's in this revenue report and back it into the expenditures?
No, the only
No.
thing I can do is I'm sorry, no.
No, it's fine.
The only thing I can do is a couple of years ago, I had Tina that works in my office. I had her go through every single one of these lines, and I had her go through and ask everyone what they deposit in each line and which department uses which account number. It's in my office. I can get that to you. It's literally on a huge piece of paper because she hand wrote everything. I mean,
All right.
I can organize it for you. I can't say I can do it today, but I can do it for you.
Well, maybe you can get somebody who would volunteer who's retired and,
I don't know who has time like that, Barry.
Right.
Neither do I.
Exactly.
I'm
Okay.
kidding.
I think we're good. If you can think of a way that we can tie this report back to the expenditures, that would be useful. I recognize that
Okay.
they're for different purposes. So I don't know, if you just have a think about it and
All
just
right.
let me know.
Let me think about it, and then I'll
Yeah.
circle back with you guys.
Maybe there's just another report that's not that's, if there's an equivalent report to this, which isn't necessarily used for internal purposes for the departments to track, but you from an accounting standpoint are
Mhm.
looking at it with the kind of chart of accounts and all of that that might be interesting to us as well. So just have a think about it.
Okay, let me try to think about it, because usually the departments use so many different accounts to deposit monies in. It's
Yep.
not like there's one account structure with the numbers between 1 and 5 that belong to the building department, and then 6 to 7 belongs to the health department. It's not coded like that per se, but let me try to figure it out, and then I'll
Okay.
circle back with you guys.
All right, we know you're busy, so no sweat, but it'd be nice to have kind of a single source to see all of the expenditures and revenues in one place that are kind of correlated. So
Yeah.
okay, any other questions on this report or the accounting budget? Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Anita. I appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome, guys.
All right,
Be safe.
stay safe.
You too. Bye.
Take care of yourself. Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Let me pull the agenda up.
Matt, we had missed the warrant article closeout updates. But they may not have been ready. I think that Anita would have brought it up.
Okay.
We've got time for that.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sorry about that. We'll just have to add that to an upcoming meeting. All right.
Mhm.
So let's see. In terms of our next agenda item is an overview of the budgets received this evening. So it really just was BBT and the accounting budget. Any kind of post-review commentary or questions on anything that we have reviewed this evening? All right, then we will move on to any discussion that anybody wants to bring up of the TRICOM meeting on Monday. It's fun. Hopefully everybody had a good time at that meeting. I know I did.
Very informative, very educational, very disturbing.
Wish it could have been more meaningful.
Yeah. Me too.
I do applaud the four of you, though, for the work you did.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That was difficult work to do. And I give Mark and Colleen and Irene a lot of credit for also participating in that exercise. I thought it was going to be something that was useful just as an option. And my impression was that the select board were looking for some additional input from finance committee and some additional input from school committee. But it seemed like when we turned up for the meeting, that actually wasn't true. So we did the best that we could to try to put together something that might be a little bit more palatable in the spirit of trying to get something that might be easier to pass given the changes that happened in the economy and in town and with everything else going on. And also, I think the working group had some concerns about the $4 million override and the fact that all of the assumptions that went into putting that together have changed, not just for FY21, but likely beyond. And so now we're just in a tough situation where we have this $4 million override that's been, the language has been approved, it's going on the ballot. And I don't think, because the assumptions have changed, that we're in a situation where we're going to get 5 years out of it. And there really wasn't a whole lot of discussion about that or recognition that things have changed. And, the discussion from March 5th had substantially, the climate's changed both in town and in the state and federally as well. So it's unfortunate that there wasn't a more robust discussion about options, whether you liked finance committee's working group option or not. We put a lot of ideas out on the table in terms of road stabilization, pulling capital out. There was lots of different versions of overrides that might have been a little bit more palatable. And I just, I'm disappointed that there wasn't more meaningful conversation on it for something that is such an important topic. Dan.
So I feel like I've mentioned this before, that I don't, like you, Matt, have, kept coming back to this idea that we need to work collaboratively. We need to work together with the select board and the school committee, and we all need to work together on these things. And this is just another case of we're really trying to, and we're just getting slapped down and rudely and disrespectfully slapped down. And it's very discouraging. like, I don't even know what the purpose of any of this is, if that's going to be the consistent reaction we get. When, I mean, was I the only one who thought, obviously I wasn't the only one, the 4 of you in the working group also thought that they were considering a lower amount. And when we got to the tri-committee meeting, it turns out nobody was considering a lower amount. And then we found out, you know, at least halfway through the meeting that they were actually considering putting it off a year. I just don't understand how the communication could be so bad that so many of us didn't have that impression, like, until the middle of the meeting even. I mean, I feel like that should have been clear from their discussion at the select board meeting that happened before this tri-committee meeting. And I have no idea what to do. There is no communication. And when we try to help, there is no interest in our help. So I just don't know what to do.
I'll move to Sue. I appreciate your comment, Dan. It's been really challenging. That's how I work. I try to collaborate, and that's been my theme this year. And I've tried to pull out every tool in my tool belt to try to develop relationships and have that working relationship between boards. It was really challenging on Sunday. You know, I didn't sleep at all on Saturday night because I was really sweating how to present complicated information that we had all worked so hard on, that I really thought was being solicited by commentary from the select board, that they actually were looking for input from finance committee. The reaction was, I'm not going to attend your meeting. When I reached out to the chair of the select board, I don't feel comfortable with the way that this is being done. And there was no further communication beyond that. So that was unfortunate. All right, you guys, Eric, looking good, man. It's been really challenging, but I'm going to continue to do. We've got to do our job as finance committee, and I'm not going to give up. I've been, you know, reinvigorated this year with a renewed sense of purpose, and we have to keep at it. The long arc of getting things more right. It favors collaboration, it favors good information, it favors facts, it favors thoughtfulness, and that stuff's in our favor, and we have to just keep plugging away at it. And I know it's really challenging for the committee to repeatedly be slapped down. I've really put myself out there over the past year trying to make a difference and provide value to the town, and it has been heartbreaking time after time to do that and get the reaction that we've gotten. But it's the right thing to do. And if we're not, you know, if we're going to just rubber stamp budgets and we're going to just attend these meetings on Saturday afternoons and all, you know, go home without actually any meaningful conversation and thoughtfulness about what we're doing, and what are we doing? There's no value at all in any of that. So I think some people appreciate what we're doing. Maybe not all the select board, but it's been a real challenge for us. But we've got to keep at it. We've got to do our job. I'm going to go to Sue first.
When we went to that meeting for the TRICOM meeting, I was under the impression that they were rethinking if they wanted even an override. And then I was getting a lot of mixed messages and I didn't quite understand really what they were looking for, but I certainly got the impression they wanted our input and they wanted us to think about some things. And I was actually shocked with last night's meeting, the hostility that was directed toward us for trying, as volunteers who put ourselves out there, who are, you know, we're the liaisons, we're the checks and balances, and to have that hostility shown toward us, I was really taken back because I thought, we're just trying to help. We're trying to see if we can come up with some creative ways to help our financial situation in town. And I certainly got the impression that there were a number of those select board members who were rethinking of not even doing an override. That's the impression I got. So I was floored when we went in and you did such a good presentation and then we got shot down like we did. And it's not the first time, but it gets a little old. And I'm sitting here going, we're volunteers. We're trying to help. We're trying to make it Grafton better. And this is how we're treated. And I didn't appreciate that at all. Not at all.
It was really challenging. I had one of those moments where, like Dan, I questioned, what am I doing? Is this really how I want to be spending my time with no appreciation? Look, the invite for the TRICOM was in part based on Finance Committee's memo to the Select Board, and that memo very clearly laid out that if you're looking to reconsider what we voted on in our March 5th meeting, that you reconvene TRICOM. That would have been the way to do it.
Yeah.
And so because we got invited to TRICOM, to me, that was the signal that there was going to be a reconsideration of the vote, and we were going to have another discussion as a TRICOM committee about what the options were, and have another robust conversation where we could come together and move forward as a town with a unified message about what our funding needs for the critical services in town. And that just didn't pan out that way. And once again, I felt like, I was just trying to do the right thing and help and provide value. And everybody else just seemed to be playing politics, quite frankly. And that's a difficult thing to say, but that's what it felt like to me. It was like a game of sound bites. So, but you know, it is what it is. Go ahead, Art.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to thank the working committee, first of all. Thank all four of you for volunteering your time over the weekend when everybody's cooped up anyway, and having to do, you know, something like that while ostensibly your family's around or what have you. It takes a lot of dedication to the town. So thank you to you, Colleen, Mark, and Irene.
And I have to say, it wasn't just us either. We had the town administrator, the finance director from the schools, the superintendent. This wasn't something that we just did on our own. We had significant input from town staff. So they also got on calls over the weekend to put that together.
Yeah, exactly. Which shows great leadership, you know, from you guys. You know, everybody respects you and they're willing to give time as well. But I really took issue with what the chair of the select board did in the TRICOM. You know, amidst a crisis, when we have a very large budget deficit and we're talking about an override, I think politics was played. That person knows the rules of public meeting law, and there was no quorum present. So everything that was done was above board. The finance committee knew about the budget subcommittee. We talked about this in the meeting on March 23rd. So anything suggested to the contrary is false. And the fact that that person said this after having been on the select board for 6+ years and been active in town leads me to believe that it was in fact intentional. And it also seemed coordinated because people were in the comments asking about, was this posted? Is this an official finance committee meeting or output? As soon as you started presenting. And I take a lot of issue with that people are playing politics because we have a crisis on our hands, both health-wise and financially. And I was so incredibly disappointed with that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, look, I went back and looked at the open meeting law around informal working groups and subcommittees and all of that, and I feel very comfortable with what we did. We discussed it as a TRICOM body. It wasn't something that was voted on. It was an informal working group that was put together that the committee agreed on. We moved forward, we did our work, and then we presented our work in a public meeting. That's how it's supposed to work. There was never any quorum. There was some discussion with town staff and whatnot, but I am completely comfortable with what we did. I got to go to Barry because he's been asking.
Quiet. Two things. I contend that the TRICOM structure, the TRICOM process is inappropriate for what we're trying to accomplish. What we really need is to get the TRICOM people into a room, just forget about the coronavirus thing, get them all together and have everybody start to dig into those numbers and say, is this appropriate? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? A working session, similar to what they did some years ago when they said, all right, let's structure out all of our capital projects for the next 10 years. And our goal is to balance any impact on the tax rates. So sitting there all around with those guys up at the big chairs and everybody else sitting at the little chairs, that's absurd. It's the wrong way to do it. That's my contention. The second is, when we go, whenever we go to town meeting, will there be a need to have two budgets prepared? One that includes an override and one that does not include an override?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be a contingency budget.
And they will be doing that.
Yep.
Oh man, that's going to be something. So I just like to get thoughts on changing the structure of the TRICOM. It's a waste of time right now.
I have a comment from Ed Prisby to everyone. He says, well, can't forget about COVID, but otherwise, yes, Barry is right. It would be amazing to see people do the actual work. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Ed. It's been challenging to try to work through this financial crisis that the town is in because we haven't had very good communication. We haven't had any invites to talk about different scenarios, and we don't have a functional subcommittee that consists of the TRICOM board members to be able to really model things out. So that's how we ended up, I think, with where we were at in March 5th, which is just we all showed up to a meeting and something was presented, some informal discussion happened for quite some time. And it felt a little bit back of the envelope to me in terms of how we came up with the numbers. And there wasn't that detailed working group or working session workshop that we could really have the opportunity to ask questions about things in a meaningful way. One of my observations, I guess, around well, I'm not going to say that, but yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you both. Who's next? Dan.
So I think that's a great idea. Just to kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate, I feel like what's really happening here is we have an idea of what should be done and we want to help do it. But the majority on the select board has a different idea of what should be done, and also the idea that it should be done by the administration staff and not by finance committee. And I think that's why we're not invited, we're not welcome helping with this work, and why our tri-committee meetings look the way they look and don't look the way Barry described. So while I think that would be great, I just don't see that happening because that's not what the select board wants from us.
Yep. Makes sense. Thank you. Colleen was next.
I'm going to move on from my comment. We've moved past it.
All right, Sue.
I just wish that we could model how other towns work with their finance committee members. They actually bring them in and ask them for input and actually ask them to come up with ideas to help solve the issues and the problems that the town is facing. And they want their finance committee members to be there. They want their input. They want their knowledge. We sit down with all the department heads. We go line by line on this budget. I don't think the select board does that. I don't think they sit down and go line by line and talk to the department heads. I mean, we go beyond talking to our department heads, just what the numbers are in here. We ask about, what they see as some issues coming up, what some capital needs are going to be in the future. I mean, we go beyond that. And yet we're not given the opportunity to share that in any format way or any model way. I wish we could be like some other towns.
I do too, Sue. I'm desperate for that. And that's really what I was hoping. It's like Lucy with the football, and every year I think to myself, this is going to be the year we're going to turn things around. We're going to develop that relationship. And I know you went through this, and probably every chair for the last many years has gone through this, where you suddenly become chair and you bear a responsibility and you realize, like the way to get this done is to collaborate, to engage, to get on the same page. And that has been what I've been trying to do all year. It's been really frustrating because we have had very little direction from the select board. So it's been this, it's been a little bit of whiplash trying to figure out, are we supporting an override? Are we not supporting an override? Do we need one? And the messaging has been very, very inconsistent, despite the projections all along having shown the exact same financial situation for FY21, give or minus, give or take a little bit. It really hasn't changed much at all. So the fact that we had to go back and forth on this and really just, avoid actually making a decision, that would be a real, I don't know, it's just been very challenging for us.
The select board need to get over that Tim does the budget, that he writes the budget, and we have nothing to do with it. And once that budget is turned over to us, it's our budget, and they can't seem to get beyond that stigma. And I think that's one of the big issues that we have. I think we just need to have a session to talk about what our responsibilities are and what Tim's responsibilities are in the select board, so we can get all this cleared up, because there are finance committee members who, they understand that the town administrator writes the budget, but once it comes to us, it's ours.
Sure.
We can make changes or recommendations to the town meeting, as we wish, and they don't seem to get that. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating to me.
Absolutely. Okay. I don't want this to turn into select board bashing. So
Well, I understand.
I know. I guess that's my signal that let's start transitioning to the next agenda item. Barry did say, I seem to recall the select board saying they own the budget. All right, if it's okay, let's move on. We've got, okay. We have had some suggestion from the town administrator in the TRICOM meeting And I think he'll have some subsequent discussions with the select board. He's recommending some changes in the FY21 budget. Obviously, this is a challenging environment to try to have meetings. So I wanted to have some discussion about our approach to the department reviews. I had a quick chat with the town administrator today. He's asking for some latitude with the timing and our process because his staff is under significant pressure at the moment. So he's asking for us to really not move ahead with our current department review schedule because his staff are just swamped right now. And there's going to be a bunch of changes, so he doesn't want to have to put them in a situation where they've got to meet and then meet again and whatnot. So that's just challenging for us. We have some requirements that we have to fulfill for town meeting. But what I guess I'm gonna just open it up for discussion in terms of how we could do this. But for now, we have postponed and or potentially canceled all of our department review meetings based on the fact that we're going to see lots of changes. And so even the reviews that we've done in person likely are going to need to either be redone or be done in some other way. So I'm not sure the best way to do that. We have met with everybody, and I think we've got a general sense of where the budget is at. And obviously Tim detailed out line by line what his recommended changes are. So I think we've got a pretty good idea of where everything is at, but I'd be interested in what the committee feels about that.
Can I just say, did Tim give you any idea when we would be able to review the budget after he's made the changes?
That would be based on, I believe, discussion and agreement from the select board. I don't have a specific date though.
Okay, so in order for us, you know, I'm getting a little zoomed out here because I have other Zoom meetings as well. I think it would be good that he would make the budget changes, and then when that is complete, then we as a whole review the department heads and ask for what their changes were, instead of meeting them on an individual basis again, because that's going to be really difficult.
I'd agree with you.
To do that. So if we do it as a whole and you know, schedule them to come in on certain days, and then we'll go over it and basically ask them what the changes were. And, you know, and then we don't have to pick up so much of their time as well. We do it in one session.
Okay, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Do we know if they're pushing back the town meeting?
The discussion last night was they were looking at pushing it back to the third week of June.
Okay. So we'll have a little bit of leeway as far as our meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
Town meetings.
Some of them.
June what, 23rd? June, what is their town
June
meeting?
23rd is the proposed date, I think, if that's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's a Saturday during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a Saturday.
June 20th is a Saturday. June 23rd is a Tuesday.
Okay, so the town meeting would be the 20th.
23rd.
20.
20th.
Okay.
Saturday the 20th.
All right. Thank you.
Followed by an election on the 23rd.
All right.
Any other thoughts on that?
So would that include the contingent budget in case the override passes?
For town meeting, it would. Yep.
I would hope we'd get to see that.
Yep.
No, I mean, when we do the reviews with the departments, will we have both of those budgets to go through in one meeting with each department head?
To me, that makes sense, but
It's a good question. I don't know if that is, I don't know logistically if that's going to work. We also, there's no requirement for us. We've already met with most of the departments. There's no requirement for us necessarily to do meetings with all of the department heads again. One way that we could do it is we could look at the budgets, the amended budgets. There'll be a couple of them. We could review those all as a group and then put together a list of questions and concerns and target, you know, individual discussions, maybe on one in one go with all the department heads and do it that way. That might be an efficient way for us to be able to thoroughly review the budget line by line and just pick out the questions and concerns that we had, to really minimize everybody's time in going through the budget and answering the questions that we had.
That sounds good to me.
Colleen?
Will Tim be doing a new budget presentation again with the amendments, or just handing over a new budget?
I doubt he will do another presentation unless we really wanted one. We could request one.
Maybe just a little bit of a time just to say, these are the major changes I made. Everything else is the same as we talked about previously.
That makes sense to me. How does the rest of the committee feel about that?
I would like to hear that.
Yeah, I don't think we would need to go through the whole thing, just, the changes and then time for questions would be nice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
obviously the override budget would be new for us. So,
Right.
okay.
So are we changing all of our dates? Are we canceling this Saturday?
We've canceled them for right now. So I think I can reach out to Tim and I can ask him what he thinks the timing will be on getting the two budgets. And then also ask him for just a brief presentation on the two budgets once they're completed. We can go through those, have that presentation. We can go through those as a committee and then put together a list of questions for follow-up meetings with the department heads.
It looks like this Saturday, April 11th, has not been officially canceled, at least according to the town website.
That is correct. It has, all the department heads have been contacted, and I ran out of time, so in the morning I will have that marked canceled.
Okay.
So the 11th, I've also, on April 15th was going to be the school committee. They've also been notified. So technically right now it's the 11th, the 15th, the 16th, the 18th as canceled.
Okay.
Unless you folks decide to put something else in those timeframes, if you'd like to meet again for whatever reason before public hearing begins. Those dates have all been meeting ID'd and passworded by Matt.
One school department where we know where it's the revised budget is the school department. So we would know what it's going to look like if the override doesn't pass. I mean, they've already done extensive work and we've seen that. So
Yep.
that's done, which is good. So we
It
don't
is.
talk again. So.
Absolutely. Sue, can you talk about our public hearings a little bit?
Sure. The public hearings are scheduled for Tuesday, the 21st. The plan right now is for the select board to sign the warrants on next Tuesday, the 14th. So we should be on target. Legal notices are going to be published tomorrow in the Grafton News for the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd. I actually haven't seen a draft of the warrant, which is why you haven't received one yet. So I really don't even have a schedule of who our guests are going to be on those dates just yet. I do know that I can tell you that on Thursday, April 23rd, Tim and Becca will be in to review all articles that haven't been reviewed by either, for example, CPA or lead petitioners. So right now, we can complete the action of the public hearings per se. I don't know what you're going to do with the warrant article for the budgets or how that's going to be approached. But technically, with the meetings completed, we do have time to write our recommendations. We technically could stop on April 27th, for example, and reconvene closer to town meeting, the rescheduled town meeting date to prepare our recommendations, because we'll probably have more concrete answers by then.
Sense.
So you can send out that schedule for our public hearings?
Yes.
She sent it out in our packet.
Yes, it's in the packet.
Okay,
Yeah, I will send you though the revised
all right.
and get rid of all these cancellations or
Thank you.
dates that are canceled and minimize that.
We all need to give Sue a lot of credit for the constant rescheduling and canceling and getting people together and then telling them no thanks. And oh my God, it's been a really frustrating year to try to do the budgets, but
Very interesting.
yeah, thank
Very
you, Sue.
interesting time. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I am also going to be switching to webinars. So the look and feel of the meetings will be a little bit different. I think I mentioned that early in the meeting. So any additional discussion on the department review process? Okay, so our town meeting date, so that was the 20th is what's been proposed. And then the 23rd is the proposed date for the elections. I think we talked about the select board signing and posting of the warrant so that they're signing next Tuesday, Sue?
That is the plan.
Okay. And then we talked about our public hearings. We have a term renewal discussion item. Let's see. Let me just pull that up. Okay. All right, so Sue is up 2020.
Yep.
Heather.
Yep.
Also up 2020. I hope you're gonna.
I'm gonna renew. I'm up.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Heather, you in?
Yeah, I am.
All right, I love it. Nice. You guys are the voice of experience on the committee. All right, very good. Is there any action we need to take on this, or is it just a review?
No, it's just a review. We'll find out what Mark would like to do when we have Mark here. And then it's basically, again, we have time now to prepare. The appointment will be made at town meeting.
Got it.
Whenever that-
So that's good.
That is good. Let's see, what else do we have?
Let's hope we'll be able to leave our house by then.
Please.
Exactly. Who knows?
Tired of being caged. And washing my groceries.
All right.
Spraying your Lysol bottle, right?
Yep. Yep.
We have a bill, so we need to talk about how we approve the bills, and so you had a couple of options.
Yes, so through Becca, not everyone has to sign the bills, which is a custom that we've always had, or a tradition. And it has to be a vote by the Finance Committee to change your manner of signing. And my suggestion temporarily was to allow me to sign, since I have the paperwork, and simply everything is now just scanned right to the town accountant's office. Excuse
I
me.
move that we give Sue the authority to sign for all our bills.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we need to take a roll call vote.
McHugh, yes.
Roy, yes.
Robbins, yes.
Kusher, yes.
Often, yes.
Swenson, yes.
Smith, yes.
Motion carries. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks,
We have to
everyone.
approve the bill now, please.
Nice.
I make a motion to view, I think it's $174.
174, you got it.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
McHugh, yes.
Roy, yes.
Robbins, yes.
Kusher, yes.
Swenson, yes.
Smith, yes.
Often, yes. Motion carries. I will
Thank you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All in favor by roll call vote.
McHugh,
yes.
yes.
Roy, yes.
Robbins, yes.
Kusher, yes.
Often, yes.
Often, yes. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.